Joining us right now, we've got our friend Sal Capaccio joining the show. He is a Bills Beat sideline reporter and host of the Extra Point Show from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on WGR 550. Sal, thank you so much for joining us today, my man.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, guys.
Sal,
Good to see you.
What's up?
Let me start off by saying, Sal, watched you on Pat McAfee last week. Incredible job, my friend. That must have been a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's the third time I've been on. I was really super excited when they reached out a while back, the season training camp, I think it was, and they're like, "Hey, you want to go on Pat McAfee?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, yeah. And I thought is this the real Pat McAfee show? And then it went really well that first. So they had me on the day that the Bills opened in LA. I did it from my hotel room, actually, over with the pool behind me and everything out in LA. And then we just did it again, So they do that Feel the Beat segment, works pretty well for me. My show ends at noon Eastern in Buffalo, and they usually have me on 12:30, 1:30. So it works out pretty well. So thank you. I appreciate it. They're a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Follow-up question.
Great.
Follow-up question. Hanging out in LA, doing the Pat McAfee show with a pool behind you. Is that the coolest you've ever been?
Yeah, I think so. It's funny. This is my 9th year on the Bills radio network as a sideline reporter. 9th year as a sideline reporter, and my backstory. I grew up in Buffalo. I grew up rooting for this team. I went to Syracuse University, and I would take a Greyhound bus back for horrible years because I was a poor college student and didn't have a car. Right, and I used to think about what it'd be like being in this job, doing this for a living. Like this was my dream growing up here in Buffalo, and.
Yeah.
Every single week, it's true. I get chills talking about it. Every single week during the national anthem, I'm standing on the field and I take a minute and I just look around. I do a 360 and I think, holy crap, I'm in the NFL. I do that every week and it's been 9 years and I just do it to remind myself how long that.
I love that, Sal. I love that so much. That's amazing. You gave me chills.
Glad you don't take it for granted. You know what I mean? Because that's the way it should be, right? You should feel like that, right?
What we do for a living, right?
Maybe someday, if you ever don't feel that way,
yeah, it's the dream.
Beautiful thing.
Stick every day.
Someday, if that feeling ever goes away, maybe you just let another kid step on the field and let him do his dream. But something tells me, Sal, you're gonna have that feeling for a long time, right?
And talk about you also get to cover your favorite team, your childhood team, and they're great and they're incredible.
Yeah,
they're just so much fun to watch. Like that's so much fun.
Yeah, I'll do this till they
put in your
here
dues with,
I won't. They'll have to force me out. They'll take me away off the sidelines. But you're right. That's the other part of it, which is I lived through it. I grew up when I was a kid. And I started to really formulate my sports fandom. The Bills went 2-14 in back-to-back seasons. Number one pick, and then Jim Kelly came from the USFL. And then I watched them get good. And I went through those Super Bowl years as a teenager. It was amazing. And into my college years. But then I also went through 17 years of not being in the playoffs and being a punchline around the league, right? I mean, this is what we experienced here. And now to be where we are, to have Josh Allen, I have an 8-year-old son who's growing up in this environment and he loves the Bills. We have season tickets. He goes every week with my wife. He goes to games. He's going to Sunday Night Football this week, his first Sunday night game. It's going to be amazing. To experience this. Yeah. I mean, this is a good team. They're right there. We have a chance now to, have something special happen here in Buffalo. And, I tell people all the time, it might be Super Bowl or bust this year. I agree with that when people say it, for the sense of if they don't win it, they fell short of their goals. But they're not going away anytime soon. This is going to be a Super Bowl championship caliber team and contender for many years to come.
We've talked about them as a Super Bowl contender on here. And I think a lot of it is Coop, you were pretty adamant. If you were the Bills, you would have loved to see them trade for Christian McCaffrey right there, throw whatever it was. But now we're seeing more rumors, maybe Kareem Hunt over there. It seems like all of these running back rumors, people are saying that's the missing piece. That's the one thing they can improve on. Do you see this Bills team making any significant moves at the running back position before the trade deadline?
So I actually don't agree with that. And we have a pretty big debate on our shows all the time about this. It's a great discussion and debate. And I'll tell you why. You give up assets for a big running back, you're going to have to justify that by turning around and handing the ball to the running back. Who wants to do that when you have Josh Allen? There's no reason to do that here in Buffalo. You have Josh Allen. The whole way you win games here is by letting him throw the football to Stefon Diggs and Gabe Davis. And, and Devin Singletary is a perfect fit for what this offense does. Now, are there running backs out there that are better than Devin Singletary? Sure, you could say that. but they don't need to go out and spend assets to do that. They have, I think, the perfect kind of complement to the way they want to run this. Now, if you want to improve the run game by handing off to the running backs, I agree that that's something they can do. You don't want Josh Allen being your leading rusher, of course, but you could also do that internally by maybe mixing in James Cook a little bit more. You have Duke Johnson sitting there on your practice squad. Maybe he can help. And also maybe trade for, to me, if you're going to look to trade, I think offensive line might be an area they might want to look to help out with the depth there. They've had some injuries along the offensive line. Maybe that will help.
Yeah.
So I don't the mix for running back, because get a guy like Kareem Hunt, for example. How much does he really elevate? You have Devin Singletary, you have James Cook, you have Zach Moss, who's inactive. All he'd be is kind of a replacement for Zach Moss, who was inactive last week anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it and it's like, not to mention, as a Bills fan, you can be happy because you know that your team is at least involved, right? They said they offered a second or whatever. Like, you kicked the tires, you threw out what you were willing to throw out there. Somebody gave away their entire draft essentially, and that's the way it is. You know what I mean? But at least they're involved. They kicked the tires, and you know what? You didn't get them, so what? But at least you didn't go all out and mortgage the whole future. You know?
Yeah. And everybody knows and everybody's clear. Like I reported from a very trustworthy source. The Bills did make a call on Christian McCaffrey. They did not make an offer. There was a report out there they made an offer. They did not. They made a call, but that's Brandon Beane's job, right? He's the GM. If there's a guy out there, he's always going to say, hey, what's your price? If they say, we'll give you Christian McCaffrey for a 6th rounder, I mean, then you do it, right? But that's not the case. But they did not make an offer. I know there was a report out there, but I will tell you personally that I reported, and I know that this to be accurate, that they did not make an offer on Christian McCaffrey.
You want your guy making a call on everything. I don't care if it's a quarterback on the market when you have Josh Allen. Like, you want your guy talking to everybody, because the last thing you want is to have your GM end up being one of the anonymous sources that says, "Oh, geez, we would have given more for DeAndre Hopkins." Like, well, why didn't you? You know what I mean? Like, too much of that going on. Like, these guys, if I was a GM, first thing I'd do is I just send everybody a text, be like, "Don't."
And let me tell you the other reason why.
At least give
the other reason why that you make a phone call is that it could lead to something else. If you make a call on Christian McCaffrey, say, what's your price? Okay, we can't afford that. Oh, by the way, what are you thinking? Maybe you get to DJ Moore, right? Maybe that's something you might want to do, or something along those lines, right? So you make a call because it also kind of just gives you more options and opens up, those lines of communication.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. We talk about that in fantasy a lot. When you're approaching trading, and I believe JJ Zacharias said it yesterday. We were on a stream together, and he was talking about trading and how even you shouldn't go into it with necessarily an exact player in mind, because you're closing yourself off to all the other options there. Mm-hmm. What, Sal, for you with the Bills, like what's the path to the Super Bowl here? It seems pretty cut and dry from an outsider looking in, but for you as someone who's connected to this Bills organization, what are they thinking about as they're going into Week 8 here?
To finish this off in the AFC to get the number 1 seed and home field advantage. That's their path. That's their goal. That's what they want to do. They didn't do that last year. Remember, they went to Kansas City on Sunday night last year and beat them and had a leg up on Kansas City. But then they lost to Tennessee on a Monday night the following week when Josh Allen slipped on that 4th down. They went to Jacksonville and had a really horrible loss against a Jaguars team they were big favorites over. They don't want to slip up. There's 2 reasons. Number 1, that's an important bye, right? There's only 1 team that gets that bye week now. You only need to win 2 games to get to the Super Bowl, not 3. So I think that's really important for them. But, man, having games at home here in Buffalo in January, like, I think other teams are kind of mentally defeated sometimes as soon as they walk off the plane, as soon as they think about coming to Buffalo and playing in that weather, the challenging conditions. The Bills rolled up. They just destroyed the Patriots in horrible weather last year, that sub-zero temperature. The Bills aren't afraid to play there. Josh Allen's not afraid to play in this cold. They're still going to run their offense. I think they want to have that happen. And the other part of this is, guys, Patrick Mahomes has yet to play a road playoff game in his entire career. Like, you go to Kansas City. I know they've lost in Kansas City. Cincinnati beat them last year. That's just a tough task to go there twice in a row. That's the team they haven't gotten over 2 years in a row. So I think you ask what the path is. The path is to get to number 1 seed, to be home for the playoffs. And I think the Bills feel really good about their chances if they can do that.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because it's like people think about the bye week. It's not about the bye week. It's about making people come to the Ralph. Like, that's such a different playing environment than, if you're the same. You know, if you play in a dome or whatever, then maybe it's not as big. But making people come up there, you better be ready because Bills fans are gonna be ready and they're gonna be loud.
I'll never forget when Sammy Watkins was on the Bills, and I think it was his first year, and he tweeted out a picture of him up like right outside his house, and it was like 6 feet of snow next to his Suburban.
Coming
I was
from
just like,
Clemson.
wow, so that
was
okay. I get it now. I see what he's saying.
That was actually, we call that the Snowvember storm. It actually did. It was one of the craziest things ever. I lived here my whole life. Well, I shouldn't say that. I grew up here. I lived in Florida for 16 years, believe it or not. And I moved back, so I know what it's like without the snow. But that was just a weird situation. We got hit really hard. The South towns, and literally, like, I live in the city of Buffalo, and just 5-6 miles south is you cross over into what we call the South towns, and you get towards Orchard Park where the stadium is. There was a line of demarcation. I had maybe an inch of snow at my house. They had 6 feet there. There was literally a wall where it just snowed. It was like kind of watching Game of Thrones, and you have that big wall, and everything on one side is one deal, everything on the other side is another deal. They had to move a game to Detroit because you couldn't travel in Buffalo in the stadium, and people were like, they had players getting them basically to the transportation to the airport on snowmobiles that game.
And
Wow.
Detroit known for its great winter weather, right? So they moved to another place where I'm sure it was just beautiful weather coming out of Buffalo to Detroit. Sal, before we let you go, I wanted to get your prediction for the game this weekend. The Bills are playing against the Packers, who seem to be struggling. Are the Packers going to step up because they're going against the top team in the league? I feel like we see that all the time. Like, you play the Bills, you're ready for the Bills. Or are the Bills just going to cruise through and hand Aaron Rodgers another big loss?
Well, I think I could definitely give you the cliche answer of it's Aaron Rodgers and he can win any game, right? He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's going to be he can step up and make throws. And I believe that to be true. We see this happen in the league every week where you think some team's going to really win and it doesn't wind up working out that way. But, this Bills team is really good, guys. They're not only great on offense, but they're great on defense. Yeah. And, they have a tremendous defensive line, and obviously Von Miller there. Their linebackers are playing at Pro Bowl levels, and Milano and Edmonds. And their secondary, the biggest question coming into the year was what's going to happen with the young corners. Tre'Davious White's not ready. He still hasn't played, and here they are with Kyer Elam, Christian Benford, Dane Jackson, and they're still playing great. Micah Hyde's out for the year. Here comes DeMar Hamlin. Like, it just fits so well. Jordan Poyer, 4 interceptions. He's missed 2 games. He still has 4 interceptions, right? So I think it's going to be really tough on Green Bay. Coming here, they don't have a lot of weapons. You could never ever count out Aaron Rodgers, but the spread is 11. It's the first time Aaron Rodgers has ever been a double-digit underdog, and I think there's good reason for that. I think the Bills should win this game by 10 points or so, but we'll see. I mean, you never know in this league, and all it takes is a couple of mistakes that you make and a couple of things not to go your way, and a guy like Aaron Rodgers can kill you.
Nah, Sal, you're allowed to say it on our show. The Bills are going to crush the Packers. Let's go.
They're going to take them out. Guys, Sal, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on with us today. Everybody listening, if you're not doing so already, go and follow our friend Sal on Twitter at Sal Sports. He is the man when it comes to getting your Buffalo Bills news. You're going to make sure you're following him. Sal, big thanks again, my man. It was great talking with you.
All right, you too, guys. Thanks for having me on. Always appreciate you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
What a dude, man.
Man, I love talking to that dude.